What's going on, guys? The Comics Kid 2099 here to talk about something. This might seem like a little bit of a stretch, but I do think this is worth discussing. I have here the Star Wars bonus features. I got this for 25 cents, and on this disc is a 2.5-hour documentary called Empire of Dreams. I believe it came out in 2004. Some of this might have been filmed earlier than 2004, but I believe the documentary came out in 2004, and it is basically interviews with most of the people involved with the creation of the original Star Wars trilogy. So you have interviews with George Lucas, Harrison Ford, Carrie Fisher, Mark Hamill, Anthony Daniels, Peter Mayhew. You get a little bit of James Earl Jones in there, and then you get some of the other people. You get Irvin Kershner, you get Lawrence Kasdan. I believe Richard Marquand is interviewed a little bit. So you get to see all these people talking about what it was like making these movies. And in a way, it kind of reminds me of this book, The Making of Star Wars, except that this is over 450 pages, and it's just about the making of A New Hope, whereas the Empire of Dreams documentary is 2.5 hours, and it's about the entire trilogy. And a little more than half of it is about A New Hope, and then they're a little bit faster talking about Empire Strikes Back and Return of the Jedi. So if you have dabbled in the history of Star Wars, if you've read something like this, and you think you know everything there is to know about Star Wars, and then you find out about this Empire of Dreams documentary, I still think this Empire of Dreams documentary is worth watching. If anything, I found out stuff about Empire and Return of the Jedi that I didn't know. Or there are things you may have heard for many years, but you weren't really sure if those things were true. I had heard for a very long time that Harrison Ford wanted the character of Han Solo to die in Return of the Jedi. And then watching this documentary, they mentioned that. Harrison Ford says, yeah, he wanted him to die. And I believe Lawrence Kasdan or Irvin Kershner, one of them said they actually wanted Han Solo to die at the beginning of the movie. So you get stuff like that where it's like, okay, that kind of puts something that was in the back of my mind into context a little bit. This also shows some screen tests from Kurt Russell auditioning for Han Solo, and the guy, I think his name is William Catt. He was in the movie Carrie. He auditioned to play Luke Skywalker. And I had read before that George Lucas and Brian De Palma were basically doing auditions together for A New Hope and Carrie. So someone might come in and audition to play Princess Leia, and then Brian De Palma might say, okay, if George Lucas doesn't want her, then I'm going to want her to play one of the cheerleaders in Carrie, or vice versa. Someone might come in to audition to play Carrie, and then George Lucas might say she would be perfect to play Princess Leia, or something like that. And so the guy, I can't remember the character's name, but the guy who goes to prom with Carrie in the movie Carrie, he was auditioning to play Luke Skywalker, and he was with Kurt Russell. They were doing a scene together. And then Cindy Williams from not Three's Company, Laverne and Shirley, she was auditioning to play Princess Leia. So there are a ton of names of people that I had heard who were either considered or had actually auditioned to play some of these characters, but this was the first time I had ever seen actual footage of those auditions, and I thought that was kind of neat, a little bit of a history thing that I didn't know there was any evidence of that left. The thing that I like most about this, love or hate George Lucas, he has a little bit of a revisionist quality about him, and I don't just mean he took the original trilogy and made it nearly impossible to watch them as they aired back in the 70s and 80s. He added stuff in that wasn't there before, and now he's trying to act like that is the version of Star Wars. So now you get McClunky, and you get that stupid scene of Jabba in A New Hope, and those things are there, and George Lucas says, that's how I always wanted it to be. I don't necessarily mean that. George Lucas has said at different points in history that he always intended for there to be 6 films, he always intended for there to be 9 films or 12 films. I'm pretty sure that's not true. I'm pretty sure he came up with a whole bunch of ideas, and then he whittled it all down to what eventually became Star Wars A New Hope. But when it first came out, it was just Star Wars, and then later, Star Wars A New Hope, and then later still, they added Episode 4, before whenever he decided, hey, there might be more to this that I can milk later on. But when it first came out, I'm pretty sure he didn't have some 12-film saga in mind. George Lucas likes to go back and pretend like these things happened a little different than what they actually were. And what's great about this is that you have everyone else's word kind of saying, yeah, this was kind of difficult. And George Lucas, he was admitted to the hospital and he thought he was having a heart attack. And that's something that's covered also in this book. But that's something that you have all these people kind of saying, yeah, this part was not fun. This was kind of difficult. And the movie, we weren't sure if it was going to be successful. And so you're getting all of these different people offering their memories of the movie. And I won't say George Lucas is just lying through his teeth. Whenever he says something like that, he's drawing back on 40 years of memories. So he's probably thinking, yeah, at one time I thought I was going to have 12 films in this saga, when in reality that might not be true. It's not that he's necessarily lying on purpose. He probably thinks that that is what he had in mind way back in the day. But you look at this, and this presents what was, at the time that this documentary came out and it was being filmed, accurate stuff. Everyone here is talking about their experiences on the movie. And so if you look at something George Lucas said 10 or 15 years later, then you can say that doesn't line up with what he said in Empire of Dreams. So I really like this documentary. And this particular disc, I don't know where you can get this. I think the original trilogy, the more recent releases, pre-McClunky, the ones with Jabba in A New Hope, the editions and stuff, I think if you got a box set of that original trilogy, it also came with the bonus features disc. But I bought this out in the wild, like I said, for 25 cents. But this also has 3 shorter featurettes on it. There's one featurette called The Legacy of Star Wars, where there are several filmmakers talking about how Star Wars influenced them. There was the writer from Boys in the Hood, I cannot remember his name, Dean Devlin, James Cameron, wow, I cannot believe I'm forgetting his name, the director of Alien, Ridley Scott, and Peter Jackson. They were all here, also Roland Emmerich. They were all in this little featurette talking about how this movie influenced them. They were all pretty young when Star Wars came out. Some of them were little kids. Peter Jackson said he was 16. I think Dean Devlin said he was 9. And then this movie made them say, I want to be a filmmaker when I grow up. And then James Cameron said he was a truck driver. And he said he quit his job so that he could go into filmmaking. And that's really cool. And then you get to see how, at least as far as special effects goes, how Star Wars was an influence and an inspiration on later films. How movies like Terminator 2 with the liquid metal, or The Abyss with the water creature thing, I've never seen The Abyss, how those movies would not have had those elements or would not have existed at all without the leaps and bounds of special effects that Star Wars A New Hope had. So that was pretty cool. There was a short featurette about how they did the lightsabers, and I will admit that special effects is not really something I'm super interested in with movies. I am much more interested in the narrative and the characters and construction of that part of a story, but it was still pretty cool hearing Mark Hamill talk about how as they got through the original trilogy, it got a little easier filming the lightsaber stuff. At one time they talked about just having a shaft and then they would draw the lightsaber part on later, but they couldn't do that because Mark Hamill might accidentally swing too far and then it wouldn't look right whenever they're drawing the lightsaber on. So they had to have either a wooden shaft or something with like some kind of reflective material wrapped around it, something that they could then draw the lightsaber blade on later. So I thought that was kind of cool. People who are into more of the technical side of filmmaking will enjoy that one a lot more, I think. And then there was one that was kind of talking about the characters of Star Wars, and it talks about how mythological Star Wars is and how it draws on things from mythology, like Beowulf or King Arthur, stuff like that. And I like that a lot too. I'm really into the background of George Lucas. When he first started, he wanted Luke Starkiller to be an older general in his 50s, and then Han Solo was going to be this green monster, and then all of that stuff gradually changed into the story we got, and it talks a little bit about that in that featurette. So I think this was well worth the quarter that I paid for it. I really like this. I guess I've had access to this for a while. My parents, I think, have this bonus disc, I believe. I just never bothered watching it before, but then I saw this and bought it for myself, and I'm really glad that I did. Not necessarily a Star Wars story that I'm talking about today, but I like this, and I thought maybe this would be something you guys might be interested in if you can find it. So those are my thoughts on those 3 featurettes and the Empire of Dreams documentary. I hope you guys like this video, and I will see you guys in the future with some more videos. In the meantime, have a great rest of the day. Catch you later.